Tariq. I'd love to hear your take since you never play fair with anyone. You need mommy?
What if Tariq actually would have got arrested at the end of Power Book 2 Ghost? Because the one thing that I think would have made like Power Book 2 Ghost much more interesting would have been like somebody going to prison, right? Because let's look at like Better Call Saul, right? Because when you had Walter White who had cancer and he was already dying from cancer, he technically was gonna die anyway. So his outcome and his ending was actually perfect. And then you had Saul, who was the lawyer, which got arrested at the end. He's, he could have got out of it, but he's essentially in prison. And then you got Jesse, who's actually he escaped and he's essentially not on the run, but he's just basically gone. He's in a win. He can't be found anymore. And I think would have made Power Book 2 Ghost like a lot more interesting would have been more of the stakes, because it's like the way that they did it was like, yeah, towards the ending, Tariq became the ghost in the machine. He basically won and got everything, and New York is essentially his now. But I think they should have done it a little bit differently, and I think they should have had it where Tariq didn't really get anything at the end, and he basically lost, right? Like he basically lost, and he's in prison, right? And I would have said there should have been like maybe one more, probably like maybe like one more letter from Ghost, like towards the end, and like how it was in Power Book 2 Ghost season 2, but this time the letter would have been something different than what he currently had in the second season. And I think they could have explored the story a little bit further on. Okay, Tariq St. Patrick, big time drug dealer, got put down, because and I think it would have made much sense if they would have done it this way, because Tariq wasn't really going down like the ghost path in the beginning. He was always going down the Canaan way, and it wasn't really like Ghost's way. And for them to do like the story and what they did in Power Book 2 Ghost, it sort of didn't really make any sense, because it was like he's trying to become somebody he fully never known, right? He's trying to emulate a ghost that he never saw. So it was like, for them to do it this way, it was just like, okay. And then we know how we felt about it. It was just like, oh, I felt rushed. It felt like this. It felt like that. But I think it would have been interesting if Tariq would have been in prison, because then that way, everybody would have been looking at Tariq and be like, okay, he's a drug dealer. And then his name, St. Patrick, would have been tarnished forever. Where it was like, okay, Tasha, I was probably would have even had like Tasha at the end, like crying and saying like, "Oh, this can't be. My baby's in prison," and everything kind of like came down upon him, and it's just like he lost everything. I probably maybe would have had Carter. I probably would have had Carter be like the good guy, right, and then had his friend Nico, his partner Nico, be the corrupt one, right? And I think it would have been cool if they would have had it where Carter is the one that finally takes down Tariq. Out of everybody who failed, I would have had it where Carter takes down Tariq, right? I would have still kept the mystery about his wife up in the air, right? And I would even changed it a bit where I would have not had Carter kill Kamal. I would have had Nico kill Kamal, right? Because Nico would have been the corrupt one. Like Nico and Felicia would have been like the two corrupted cops on Carter's task force, while Carter is the one trying to do things the right way. I would have just had it that I think that would have been perfect if they would have done it that way, right? And then would have been like, okay, now it's Carter taking down like Tariq and being like, now I finally got you. Because here's the thing too, which I know a lot of people didn't really mind, or maybe some people didn't care at all, is that law enforcement lost way too much. They lost way too much, and you like okay, like the criminals is completely outsmarting like law enforcement, and they just suck, right? But realistically, it shouldn't have not been that way. It should have been like, okay, like they got like some major like people that got like arrested, and I think it would have made it a little bit more credible for like law enforcement to really be like, okay, this is really happening, right? Rather than just being like, okay, law enforcement was really dumb. Because I think it was perfectly fine to do that in the original Power, right? I think it was perfect that they did it, where Ghost was outsmarting everybody, and plus he had Angela, right? I think it was perfect for that. But then when they bring it to like Power Book 2 Ghost, and then they start having Tariq do it, in a sense, it didn't really make too much sense for him to like do that. Because it's like, yeah, Tariq is smart, right? He's the son of Ghost, right? But he was never taught. That's the problem. That's like the problem. It's like he was never really taught, and he's just going off an instinct of like what to do and what not to do. So it's like when you have like a little training, right, and you don't have like a sense of direction of where you're heading or what you're doing, it kind of like doesn't really add up, and it doesn't really make any sense, because everybody could see in Power Book 2 Ghost that Tariq was making a bunch of mistakes that should have gotten him arrested, right? There was so much stuff that they could have done, right? Even when Braden killed the drug dealer, because at the time he thought he can, get with his girlfriend at the time, and it was just like, no. And again, it was so much stuff that they could have like, attacked, right? That could have been like, okay, these was mistakes, big mistakes, right? So that's why I'm saying here, it's like, I think it would have made sense for Carter to be the one to arrest Tariq at the end and be like, okay, like Tariq is trying to, he thinks he's his father, because I think the premise of like Power Book 2 Ghost should have been Tariq is trying to surpass his father without fully knowing who his father really was, right? And it's more like he's a shadow trying to chase a ghost, right? And I think it would have been cool if that would have been the story that they was trying to like play up, rather than Tariq just bashing his father, saying like, oh, Ghost was a piece of shit and he didn't really know what he was doing, right? So and I think that was the arrogance and the foolishness that kind of like made it seem like because he didn't fully know. And then when they tried to make him become Ghost at the end, it still didn't really add up to a lot of people, and had people like, huh? Like some people was like, okay, I'm on board with this, and they can see it, but then it was just like, not really, right? Not really, because it's like Tariq, he's still young, right? And like I keep saying, he was never really taught. But I think that if they would have went like a different direction, and they would have had like Tariq go to prison, and then just had like the domino effect, they could have had Effie, like when Effie was with the Russians, and then that's when they came in. They could have had Effie wear a wire, like she could have been the snitch, right? Like the CI, whatever. Like they could have had her wear a wire, right? And then they could have maybe had Effie ultimately bring down Tariq, right? They could have done something like Tariq thinking everything's good or whatever. Effie didn't really forget, because I think they could have had it where Effie was still hurt about what Tariq did. So they could have been like, okay, Effie got it, basically everybody, but she's not gonna turn on Kane, right? But just have it in a way where it's, it's really Tariq. Or maybe not had everybody under recorded, but maybe conversations that she had with Tariq, because I think the story could have been where Carter is like, he really wants Tariq. He doesn't really care about anybody else. It's just Tariq. So I think they could have done it that way, where it's like, okay, she has like the recordings or whatever, and then they can go from there and be like, okay, now this is the person that ultimately got him, would have been Effie, right? And they could have like played around with the story from there and be like, oh, okay, right? And then Tariq is just pissed off, and he's just like, I can't believe you did this to me again, right? Because it would have showed like the arrogance and the negligence from Tariq, like these are the things that's happening because you're not really aware of anything, and you're not really a step of anybody. You're not like 2 steps, you're not 3 steps, you're not any of that, right? So again, it would have been cool. It would have been a lot cool if they would have done that, because I would even give you another example, like when Tariq was like going up against like Noma, right? And as I said before, it's like, yeah, he was with Anya, so he kind of used Anya as a shield so that way no one wouldn't go after him. But it's like, it really showed you how Tariq wasn't really on the level of Ghost, because it's like, if he was on his level, then he could have figured a way of killing Noma rather than what he did at the end, right? Where it was like Kane was the one to have done it, but ultimately it should have maybe been him to do it. But it is what it is. But like I said before, it was a lot of inconsistencies. But as I said before, the perfect story could have been like him going to prison. Everybody sees it all. Tate, everybody's just like, I knew it. He's not really smart as his father or whatever. But then it would have been Tariq. And I would have had it where Ghost would have had like a sketchy past, but Ghost wasn't really like a big time drug dealer, right? It would have been really Tariq St. Patrick that would have been the one to have taken a rap. I would have had it where Ghost would have just been the Ghost, right? Like he died, that was it, right? But then it would have been Tariq, the one that would have been taking all the blame for everything and been like, okay, so maybe he was the one that did this. Okay, maybe he was the one that did that. And they would have been tying him to like certain murders and then tied him to the Agent Young's death and been like, okay, he also did that too. Like I would have had like something like really cool and clever to just tie in all of the story together, and then it would have been like, I can't believe this. So that way, Paz at the end would have been like, you son of a bitch, I finally got justice, right? Like even though she couldn't get justice for Angela because at the time she would still think Tommy's dead, but it would have been like, I got justice, at least I got justice for something. And I think it would have been satisfying for Paz to get justice for having Tariq go to prison. That would have been cool. I think that would have been cool. Like Tariq would have not outsmarted anybody. It would have just been him thinking he was smarter than everybody, but he's not smarter than nobody. Because if you think about it too, it's like Tariq was in college and Tariq was like, learning and giving like his point of views. And don't you think that when he was in college, like the metaphors and everything that the professor was like telling the students and about like, life and the philosophy of what to do and all the stuff that they was like really bringing up at the time, and you would think all of this was just basically learning tree. Like this was a learning tree for Tariq. It wasn't really him actually doing anything. It should have just been him learning these steps, but ultimately he would have made like a big mistake and he would have failed. Right now, I would have said this too, that they could have botched like the investigation. So it could have been where Tariq would have went to prison, but it would have been like Kanan way or something like Kanan, where either he stayed in prison, right? Or they'd be like, oh, we got all this evidence on you, right? They could have done it two ways, where he could have not stayed in prison for that long, but only been there for like a little bit because of a botched investigation. They could have still had him on something, but the investigation that they would have had could have been screwed up, because I would have gave Tariq like an out where like something could have happened and the investigation is botched and they only got him for maybe the Agent Young's death, maybe that or something else that they could have had him under, and then been like, okay, he do like, instead of 10, like maybe 6 years, maybe like 5-6 years, he could have went to prison for, right? Even though Paz would have been pissed because she would have wanted longer, but he only get like 5 or 6, right? And then I would have had it where Davis McClain, I don't know what I would have had him do, right? Maybe him trying to like defend Tariq the best of his ability, but he can't really get Tariq, fully out of prison, but just him doing like 5 or 6, right? And Tariq he has to take the rap for it and whatever. And then I would have had the Kanan hallucination show up and be like, well, little nigga, if I had to do time, you gotta do time, but just be smart while you in here or something, right? Because when Kanan was in prison, it seemed like I wouldn't say he was in charge of the prison cell, but he had like a little bit of pull, a little connection in prison. So again, it would have been cool. It would have been a lot cool and interesting, like the direction they could have did with like Tariq's character of him, potentially going to prison, right? And he has nothing, and then maybe it would have been Braden and Effie, or maybe just Braden by himself, like the one in control or whatever. Or Braden and Diana. I would say that probably like Braden and Diana, because I think Braden probably would have killed Effie. I would have probably had Braden kill Effie and be like, well, you was a CI snitch or whatever, or tried to kill her, but then Kane steps in the way and be like, nah, you can't do that. Well, actually, no. Well, no. Yeah, I would probably had like Braden try to kill Effie or something. I probably would have had that, and then maybe would have had like Braden and Diana like run the business together, while Drew is going somewhere, like he's done, and then just had like Diana and Braden like run the business together. I think I probably would have had that at the end, because Braden would have been heartbroken as well to be like, his friend is basically done and he has to be the one in control. Because remember back in the original Power, where Ghost was in prison, and he thought he was never going to get out. And he asked Tommy, he was just like, "Yo, if anything happened to me while I'm in here, make sure my family is good." And that's when Tommy was just like, "No, it's not going to be like that, Ghost." And they had like that sad heart to heart while they was on the phone. I don't know. It probably would have. I would have had that exact same thing where if Tariq would have had to do Tom, had Braden be like, "Yo, listen, man, make sure my family's good. Make sure they good, all right?" Because I don't think Tasha ever met Braden. I don't think so. Did they? Did they ever meet? I don't know if they ever did meet. Somebody comment down below if they ever, because I don't remember them actually meeting. I don't think so. So I don't know. I probably would have had like Braden, look over, like, make sure Tasha and yeah, like make sure they good or whatever, right? And that would have been it. That would have been it. But again, like I said, it would have been. There's so much possibilities that they could have done with, like, Pablo 2 and the direction and the character. Now, it's not. I'm gonna say this. It's not me hating on the character Tariq. It is what it is of things that happen. I've already moved on, so it's not me hating on the character. Like, oh, you hate Tariq. No. I'm just saying, like, there was a lot of directions that they could have done with the character because, like I said, how is it that in Dexter you got the resurrection of Dexter? And I'm like, but the man he should have died. And again, it was like the inconsistencies that they had with the story going forward with Dexter. Like, there was times where he should have died, he should have got caught, and then now in the last season where the son shoots him and then he's alive somehow, and it's just like, what? That, like, it didn't really make sense. It didn't really make sense. But again, I would have had it in this what if Tariq goes to prison and he has to make his new life in prison while he figures a way of, once when he gets out of prison, what is he going to do? Right? He has to start from the bottom. I don't know. I would have made the story like a lot interesting because you look at back in the original Power, only Cristobal got arrested. Power Book 4 Force, only Mercury's got arrested. And it's just like, okay, it's not big peoples, but you had like a couple of peoples that got like arrested. But again, it should have been that. It should have been the big one. But it is what it is. But comment down below, like, let me know some of your thoughts in the comment section down below. What you guys think of maybe this what if, and maybe if Tariq would have got like arrested, and. But as always, like, comment, subscribe, and share, and I catch you all in the next one.